Hello, this is Greg Allison, Green Greg's, coming to you on the 26th August 21, time on deck, 18:06 hours Central Daylight Time. And we have a special guest, General Ken Chrosniak, with us again tonight. And we're going to be talking about power grid defense. And among many other things, one of the hats that Ken wears is he is a very active individual leading up the organization called Impact America, which is all about power grid defense. He's got a big presentation to show us guys. He's got a really good perspective on this. Ken started out as an enlisted man in the Army, so he knows what it's like to work. For those of you in the Army knows what I mean by that. But he's rose to the rank of Brigadier General, and he's a very accomplished man. So, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Ken. Ken, you got anything you want to say? Before us do that, if you're not subscribed to my channel, bang the subscribe, bang the notification bell, and click all, because the proposition of my channel to help you survive, thrive, and stay out of the hive. And that's what it's all about, guys. We're about surviving here and thriving. We want to keep our power grid going so we don't have to suffer. But in case it does go down, and we got a lot of threats in the world today. The sun is cranking up, our magnetic field is going down. So the sun's up, shield's down, and there's terrorism popping all around. So if you're not paying attention, you need to wake up, keep your eyes wide open, head on the swivel, like I tell people all the time. And to help you get ready, I got a special deal, guys. You can get $300 off a 3-month supply of food that lasts 25 years. And the grid goes down, you'll be glad you got it if you got it. 25 years. And you can get 6 buckets of this. It's 3 months, 2 buckets a month. And with that, you get 2,000 calories a day, which is awesome. A lot of your vendors do not offer more than 800 calories a day in their so-called plans. Or not real plans. This is because this company that I use here is the best. Just go to prepwithgreg.com, and there you can find My Patriot Supply logo. You can go in and get all kinds of different options because they have a wide range available to you. If you want gluten-free or vegetarian or meat eaters only, whatever floats your boat. But great specials here. You got to check it out. $300 off is hard to beat. Or you can get for a 1-month supply 25% off. And that is a good deal too, guys. And it's easy to store, easy to carry. Your kids can carry these buckets, guys, unlike some of the competitors that have great big containers that are real hard to move around. So it's an awesome deal. That said, let's get on to the program tonight. We're going to talk about the power grid defense. And ladies and gentlemen, I give you General Ken Chrosniak. Ken, what do you got to say? Tell us a little bit about yourself and we'll jump into the presentation.
It's a pleasure to be here with everyone. I seldom have an opportunity, especially during this pandemic fiasco, to be able to go out and do in-person briefings, but I've managed to cobble together 95 slides. I know it's death by PowerPoint, and we're going to go through all 95. So I hope you all don't want to go to bed. No, we're going to go through about 20 slides, which are the most crucial slides. And I know people don't read books anymore. They just don't, or that not they do, but yet I want to reach the audience. I want to reach the public, and I tailored this discussion with you as if I was right in front of you. I've actually projected it with a slide on top and the talking dog portion underneath in the notes section. And I'm going to make it available through Greg to, if you wish to have it sent to you, to contact him and whatever means that Greg has, and I can send you. He'll contact me and I can send it to you. I also at the very end have an email account that you can ask questions or make comments and so on. And I think I have 2 more lives left of my 9. Definitely for being married for 44 years, being Vietnam, Iraq, and some other places. I think I got 2 more lives left. And I'm really thick-skinned, so I don't care what your comments are. I'll answer them. If I can't find out, we got experts out there. We got Greg Allison, Dr. Peter Vincent Pry, Dr. Radasky, Dr. George Baker. I mean, there's so many smart minds out there that I've learned from. They're my mentors. I'll start right now.
All right, there we are.
Right now. Slide 5. Oh, that's good. Oh, is that okay now, Greg?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's the bluff. Every military, there's a bottom line up front. They should have that not just in the military, but for a Dolly Dinkle School Advanced, no matter what it is, whatever business you're in, you should have the bottom. What's the most salient point? And right now, it's a clear and present danger. Even more so with recent events. And as I'm starting right now, I've been remiss. When I was commanded my forward operating base in Iraq, Command FOB Abu Ghraib, I I had my Marine company, Echo 210, which is on my walls, suffered about almost half casualties during this one attack. And I love my Marines, even though I've been Army. And 12 of our precious youth from our homeland were just murdered today, maybe more that we will find out needlessly. And I'm just praying for the newly minted Gold Star families out there right now, and all of the veterans that are going through such angst right now, trying to justify if they really died for something. And it's just so they were trying to rescue people. They were trying to rescue people on a crazy mission that should have never happened. I'll end at that and get into probably another existential threat, probably the premier one. Never forgetting our Marines, of course. I learned over many presentations that you can't scare people into action. And I'm hopefully, most of you have read slide 5 already. And that is overwhelming. And you say, well, how can we fix the grid, the electric grid? When there's so many moving parts, it's such a complex working machine. How can we do it? Well, you can't fix the entire grid. You cannot protect the entire grid. Over time, you probably can. We don't have the time right now. Slide number 6. Next slide, Greg. Well, there's certain givens. We have knowns and realities. Knowns, they're somewhat different between the two. They're documented. Some are ongoing. We know the threats that are happening right now in the Middle East, which is going to blow up and be worldwide very shortly. We know the vulnerabilities. You're not leaders, but your officials, the enemy, and you should be to know also, because you don't right now. The American public doesn't know the existential threats because they don't want you to know. This is not a conspiracy theory. The government doesn't want you to know the existential threat, how weak the electric grid is. And you can read through the rest of these slides. I try not to read the slide, but yet some of those acronyms, like the POTUS is the President of the United States, Homeland Security is DHS, Department of Energy is DOE, DOD, of course, is Department of Energy is DOE, DOD is Department of Defense, NOAA is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Significant inroads with them, with wonderful men like Bill Murtaugh that are watching the evolutions of the sun, which is just as dangerous as a nuclear burst over our heads. And of course, NASA, which we all know. Next slide. You all know about the tsunami that hit Iwate Prefecture on March 2011. Were they warned? Do you think they were warned that a tsunami was going to hit? Next slide. Yes, they were warned a few hundred years ago. Where there's ancient stone markers, 4 to 10 feet high, about 300 of them, all along the east coast of Japan, with some more than 600 years old, sighted all along the coast, warning of prior tsunamis near devastated towns like Aniyoshi. They told people, they said, like it says on the slide, do not build beyond this point. Well, the planners decided they didn't have a failure to imagine when it's right there in front of them in ancient writings. Don't establish this beyond. So they put a nuclear power plant down there in a huge village. And of course, we know the result of that, with well over 100,000 people dead or missing. Unfortunately, right now, we're facing a potential disaster that could make Fukushima look like a day at the beach. No pun intended. And as with the Japanese, we have been warned also. Next slide, please. Next slide. Oh, that's a good one. Thank you. And here's another fine example of a failure to imagine. How many of you remember that that missile that was supposed to be incoming, probably undoubtedly from North Korea, where Hawaii alerted the people, as it says on the slide, an incoming missile. Well, that will raise your poker factor real fast. But did they know what to do? There's a picture of a young girl, the mother and father lowering her down into a water sanitation line. Be serious. We don't have civil defense anymore. Unfortunately, we have We have to work under the quantitative analysis and deceits of risk management. Next.
Management supposed to mitigate.
Click. Click. Oh, bear with me. Trying to, my headset and timing on my brain here is a little off. That's the one I want. Thank you. That's slide 15 on my thing. I focus on the catastrophic level, not on the normal disasters that our Northern Command and the FEMA, your first responders, do a wonderful job of doing. The wildfires going on, the tornadoes, the hurricanes, any kind of disaster level. This is beyond disaster level. You have an event, you have a disaster, you have a catastrophic disaster, you had a cataclysmic disaster. Eventually it becomes a tragedy when it can't be reversed. But I focus in on this, the beyond design base level. I'll give you a second to read that. And this comes right from the National Infrastructure Advisory Council of the President, probably about maybe 3 years old. Click. Click.
Not catching up. It's hanging up. There we
go. One more. No, go back. Go back. Go back. Go back. That's it. Now look at this slide seriously. The EMP Commission publishes. So at the War College, we don't plagiarize. We just lift good ideas off of other people. So I'm very good at doing that. But we don't plagiarize. No doubt about it. Vulnerability of U.S. military and civilian systems. The military is 99%, actually 100% dependent upon you, your civilian infrastructure. But it shows, look at the ecstasy of fumbling that will happen when you have what we call cascading effects, unprecedented failure of electronics dependent upon infrastructure. But the separate one should be electric power. That's the number one, which we'll discuss as we go on further. But this is meant to show you that the military is just as dependent upon electric power as the civilian structure. Next slide.
It's kind of responding slow.
I'm trying to move mine ahead too. Click.
It's not going. There we go.
We got a top secret code here, everybody. Click. Click. There's no bang after click. Just click. Oh, there. Hold it right there. Yeah, that's your electric grid. Many of you know this already. The generation, transmission, distribution, and control. There's not only three parts of it. There's four parts of the electric grid. The controls are the SCADA systems, which we'll discuss shortly, and the human-machine interface. They're separated into two areas. The bulk power system up on the left side, upper left side, is a bulk electric system, the BES, and the distribution system, all of which are old, vulnerable, actually archaic, many of them. Most of the extra high voltage transformers there that you'll see up in the bulk electric system on the upper left are average about 40 years of age, that beef up in the substation. It looks like a book. The substation there have these large extra high voltage transformers, 765,000 volts that pushes the power, because of course, with ohms, you have the resistance all the way. So you have to have substations pushing the power forward. And then when it reaches near its destination, they have a step down transformer that brings it in, so you don't have 765,000 volts going through your living room, but you end up having just a few thousand volts that, 120 volts coming in, or maybe 240. Now that I'm done with the technical direction, because I'm not an electrician, hold on, 21. Click, 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 click. Here's the very important. Those are the transformers. You can see how big they are on the upper quadrant on the right flank, on the right side. and you can just go ahead and read for yourself. I hate to read to a slide that's already. You have to go back one there. That's the one. Yeah, hold on to that one, Greg. They're darn near impossible to replace. They're very difficult in peacetime. They take up to about a year and a half or more, not only to manufacture, but also to logistically transport it and put it in place at a substation or whatever. And of course, it's not easy in some of the remote areas because the rail cars that transport this stuff, and some of the rails are now jogging trails. But you can see what, and the bridges, the bridges are of our infrastructure are totally, many of them are totally inadequate. You're not going to take 500 tons going across that bridge along with the tractor and the trailer that's pulling it that has 86 wheels. We only have about 5% of availability on these transformers, so they're crucial. They're crucial. We'll discuss those very lightly in the near future. Next. Also, right up there with number 2 is the SCADA system, supervisory control data acquisition systems. I have to move down one. That's my headspace again. They control everything. It's not just the internet, IT technology. It's the operational side of the house. And we're learning about that with cyber warfare right now, because cyber warfare is actually physical warfare, or cyber attack is actually physical attack. It can make that light switch behind you in some of your homes go up and down. It can take a nuclear power plant and keep the spent fuel pools from being cooled in the rods. It can shut off that nice Tesla that you're driving and so on, and actually quite easily. But that's the one that they're ubiquitous. They're all over the place, and it's very, very hard to harden them. But we have the technology to do it. Can you harden 100% of them? Probably not in a certain amount of time. But you can harden quite a few of them, especially the most crucial ones to food production, medicine, rail, fuel supply, and so on. Or go back to the analog system, because most of the SCADA systems go through the Internet of Things, through the internet, which is mainly real vulnerable, as the Colonial Pipeline system found out, and as JBS Meatpacking and so on, big conglomerates find out, and even DHS CISA, which is supposed to protect us from cyber, have found out. They've been hacked. So is the Pentagon. So is the White House. So is the Department of Treasury, Department of Energy, the Supreme Court. They've all been attacked with cyber. There's I consider very little defense against them. Next, probably a few of them. Next. I'd like to talk to some of these slides, but here's one I'll talk about. Talk about how vulnerable you are. Right now, that upper right-hand corner, that's an Iranian satellite that goes over the United States about every 90 minutes, I think. There's a North Korean satellite, the KSM-2 and the KSM-3, that have been going over us for the past few years. Does it have a nuclear load? No, probably not. But with a large influx of money that they'll probably be receiving pretty soon, like 140 some billion dollars from the Obama administration many years ago, it going into Iran through Sweden or Switzerland. They'll probably have that, be able to put a nuclear load on that very, very easily. And of course, I would call that an existential threat to our existence. Next. That's one of the diesel generators, extra emergency diesel generators that protect the nuclear power plant when it goes down. It only has enough fuel for possibly 7 days, and it counts upon the military to resupply it with fuel, which kind of hard to do when the refineries are shut down. So it's not good news there. Next.
Yeah, it's also to have the fuel pumps for the trucks to run.
Right. Yeah. Well, the pumps aren't going to work in your local, hopefully not, the Gulf station and so on, or any station, unless you can suck the fuel out of there real good. You're going to be But people will figure out how to get it out of there, but it's not going to be refilled again because refineries will shut down. Next. There's one of my favorite slides from Dr. George Baker. And that pretty well says everything. I put the red dots in there because I like the word indefinite. In the grand scheme of things, that's not good for you and your children's lives and your wife and your community and so on, because it's not going to be able to be repaired in a timely manner or made functional again. Never mind the word magnetohydrodynamic and so on. It's this bad juju, as a naval admiral told me one time. He said it's in the too hard column. And I was incredulous when he said that. But we eventually won him over, and he wanted to know more about this. And he's made some changes in the Navy by hardening many of the vehicles, many of the ships and so on, probably. But you can see high altitude nuclear bursts, which it's the capability of Iran, no matter what you hear in the news. They have the capability with the Scud missile off the coast of the United States. They're in Venezuela right now. They're in Cuba. So they're within missile range. Also North Korea, China, Russia, and soon to be Pakistan, well, Afghanistan probably, who knows. But it shows that the deleterious effects of each one of those, and it's not good news. Let me see what slide that was. Next. Yeah, that's interesting, because you talk about people being infiltrated in the United States. This is a physical attack, and I was there not long after that, maybe about 2 weeks after it, in San Francisco at an EMP conference. And on April 2013, Pacific Gas and Electric, it was a pretty good size 500,000 volt substation that supplied a significant portion of Silicon Valley. And not even the best snipers in the world, probably. They fired off about 100 rounds, 30 caliber. We know that because they left a few rounds lying, which special operators don't normally do, but they probably left it there for a reason. 17 transformers were damaged. They were shooting the synthetic oil that keeps the transformer cool. Following the attack, Metcalf spent about $1 million to protect the site. But just for grins and grins, and it's laughable, 1 year later, they were penetrated again, resulting in some minor damage at the control house, just to show that they could do it. So the FBI was considering it as workplace violence, and the audience, we were just laughing. We said, be serious. This was a professional, like a SEAL operation, which we have, this is not a conspiracy theory, but we have this has been replicated many times across the United States. And what's difficult about it, even the FERC, Cheryl LaFleur, the head of the Federal Electric Reliability Corporation, stated in public testimony to this, I believe the Senate or Congress, that if the enemy attacks just 9 substations out of the hundreds that we have, they'll take down all 3 grids: the East, the West, and the ERCOT, the Texas grid, for simple terms. It's very, very vulnerable. And the enemy knows where those 9 nodes are. Don't ask me how, but they know. We're going to go ahead on a few now.
The Iranians said they've targeted 20.
Say again?
The Iranians claim to have targeted 20.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Just tell me when we get there.
Next. Keep going. Right there.
Look at that.
Another one by Dr. George Baker.
I got off. Yeah.
Oh, go back.
There it is.
No, go back. Right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's pretty graphic. A lot of military briefings, we have this. Red ain't good. Red is not good. That means it's going to be gone forever, or most likely, unless you have specific teams that go out and replace them. Purple's not too good either, but yellow's pretty testy. But you can see what happens to transformers, generator stations, SCADA system that controls everything. Controls your traffic lights, and it also controls the amount of the electricity going into your when you're being intubated. in the ICU. It controls everything, and it can be hacked into easily. It can change your blood type from A to type O in the hospitals, but not too many Americans know that, unless they showed it on NCIS or something like that. I don't know.
Oh my God.
But here, go to the next one. I think this is the one I really want to show, is that in every military operation, you attack an enemy with a center that has a center of gravity. Germany in World War II, it was oil and ball bearings, oil production. That's why we did the deadly Ploesti raids. And my father was on all three of them and lived through it. But that's the weakest link in any country, and ours is electricity. It's not the post office, it's not the dams, and they're all bad in their own place of the critical infrastructure, all 16 of them, which I sort of glossed over, but I'll have it in the slide deck when if you do order there's no cost or anything. If you do, ask to have the state send to you. But the most important, there's single points of failure that in this place, like the four legs of a stool: fuel, degraded, destroyed, refinery production. And people talk, many times I give this talk and people say, during the Q&A, will my truck start? Well, I think it's a stupid question, but okay. Yeah, it'll probably start, not because 1964 and all that stuff. It'll probably start because cars are pretty well protected now. How much fuel you got in your tank? How far do you live from home? Do you have any water in your car? Because when you stop off, you won't be able to pay for anything. The ATM won't work. The pump won't work over the Gulf station. Whatever. Yeah, there's second and third order effects. Communications, degraded, denied, and destroyed military satellite communication and commercial satellite communication, internet. The NIMS, the National Incident Management System that the police have, and the fire, EMS, the ambulance. I know because I'm in a fire rescue unit, firefighter, and with an ambulance company. That stops. You got FirstNet, but that's highly questionable. They're not going to last long, no matter what they say. Personnel, availability of trained technicians, first responders, military, FEMA. What do you think is going to happen with a soldier down at Fort Bliss, Texas, and his or her family lives up in Buffalo, New York? Do you think that they're going to stay around after maybe 3 weeks when they can't even take care of themselves on the post, which is completely closed down or locked down? No, they're going to leave. But military leaders don't want to hear about that kind of stuff. Time is the most important. Maybe I'm going to change that to about 3 little plus weeks at most. A golden time, like you have on a battlefield. You have about maybe an hour, actually about a half an hour, to bring that soldier or wonderful Marine off to definitive care at a cache or a field hospital, and for any kind of hope of recovery. But this, as it progresses and so on, as you'll see, it doesn't get any better. The vital link is food. Start thinking 332 million urban, suburban, and rural mouths to feed. Let me see what the next slide is. Next, please. Next. Oh, there. Next, one more. There's the communications slide. I like to wait. Is that the one? No, the next one. This is your communications. This isn't my slide. Chris Fugate, the director of FEMA a few years ago, made this slide up. It was ordered destroyed, but I got a copy and I show it to everybody. I don't care. But again, not going to send me back to Vietnam again. Maybe, I'll go back. It's beautiful now. But you can see even the plain old telephone system line, everything is down after about 30 days. If you marry a ham radio operator, they'll be worth their weight in gold as long as there's fuel and beer and food or whatever else the ham radio operator wants to have to live. But everything is down. The 911 system, the voice over protocol, LEO, GEO, low Earth orbit, mid Earth orbit, and geosynchronous orbit, they'll all be compromised after about 30 days. Again, you won't hear DHS telling you that. That was slide 59. Bear with me. Next. Oh, can you go back to that one slide about FEMA? All these words are right out of Chris Fugate, his mouth. up to 2 years to make months to make. They're made in Germany, South Korea, and now unfortunately communist China. We have about 300 of them right now in our country. And actually about 10% of the power going to New York City is supplied with communist Chinese transformers, which have been known to have malware in them because they're hacking us anyway. In Las Vegas, 18% of the power going into Las Vegas, and probably Creech and Nellis, where we fly our drones out of, or used to, when we fought the enemy nations, is probably controlled by, or at least influenced by communist Chinese transformers. But anyway, which started in 2008, which I haven't got to tell you who was president then. Next slide. Next. 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 Yeah, dynamics, leave it on that one. Dynamic impact of loss of a nation's electricity evolves around time. And this is from my good friend, John Hollerman. Greg knows him. He wrote a 52-page article called Grid Down, Death of a Nation. He's a former US Air Force survival, escape, and resistance instructor. And he knows what he's doing. And he wrote this. General Quast, Steve Quast, Air Force fighter pilot, general, wonderful man, a living example of General Billy Mitchell, who was crucified by the system for telling the truth. And this is what's going to happen well beyond maybe 4 weeks. And you can read that for yourself, and it's not good news. It should prompt you to think and plan outside the box and always plan for the worst case situation. And believe me, planning for the worst case situation will keep you alive. I know. What would be the availability of any outside assistance coming to your state, your village, your town, your home to help during a prolonged catastrophic event? If several to all FEMA regions are involved simultaneously and not able to assist. Have Hurricane Katrina, we had most of the nation bringing supplies, even the Cajun Navy. The Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, an ungodly amount of infrastructure went into a territory of ours that their planners had a failure to imagine, because they planned for a level 2 hurricane. How stupid can you be? You're right there in Hurricane Alley. You plan for a level 5. You've got to be a complete idiot to plan for level 2. They should be in jail, but they're probably on Long Island enjoying a few $1 million retirement.
Sounds like our power grid executive is especially an earth and perk.
Yeah. But here's another one. Can you go next? This is a busy slide, but this is the way it's going to be with all my research. I know Greg had come up with the same thing. The failure of critical infrastructure, like in your town. I'm guessing whether you live in Manhattan or whether you live in Stump Jump County, West Virginia, in a beautiful little village or whatever, wherever you live, or out in the rolling grasses, the rolling weeds over there in Arizona somewhere. After about 3 weeks, those existing forces are going to be gone. They'll be home with their family where they belong. Lack of intel, impaired ability to local governance, disorganized, limited, chaotic, personnel, fire, police, they won't be available. Hazardous material, nuclear power plants, chemical and biological storage, which will be targeted also. Flight, transit people, colleges, collapse of mutual aid agreements. You help fight fires like we do in this area. We go over to Franklin County and help fight a barn fire. They'll have their own problems. Well, they won't have any pressure for the tankers and so on anyway. Their ladders won't work anyway because the microprocessors will be burned by an E1 pulse. But hoarding, degraded external community, backup generators. Most time your generator won't start with an E1 pulse anyway, because it comes in about 1/billionth of a second, a huge pulse of about anywhere between 50,000 volts and 250,000 volts. So far, I'm pumping a lot of sunshine into this briefing, I believe, right? Next. Next. Here's an example. The 2008 EMP Commissioning Report said, plan for, and their best estimate, I'd guess, was 90% of the population will not survive the first year following a high altitude nuclear burst. But look at it, look at the very bottom line. I put it in there as a comparison with a COVID-19 death, which is tragic. We lost, maybe it's about 660,000 now. I don't know. This is about a month and a half ago. That's a lot of tragic deaths. There's no doubt about it. But it comes to, if you take 635 some thousand and divide it by 35 million, it comes to 0.0019. It's hardly even worth mentioning in the grand scheme of things. If you think about 90%, it's real high. If you think there's 1%, how acceptable will 3.3 million people be at the end of maybe a month? They won't know about it because they won't have any comms anyway. 5%, it goes up 20%. When it's up to 90%, and like Dr. George Baker once said, 10% will still be alive and you don't want to be around them, which I thought was pretty prophetic. One moment.
That's a good point.
Can't read my next, please.
I would submit that's optimistic. It'll be worse.
Oh, it'll be. If any of you have seen that movie with Kevin Costner called The Postman, it was really good. It was long, but it was fantastic. That will be good. That will be a good stage. But it won't be that way. It'll be a failure to imagine. It'll be an unbelievable tragedy, irreversible. Next, please. So this is how it's going to go. No, go back one, I think. Yeah, this is the way it's going to go down. You can read that. He's going to say, send me everything you've got. You're going to have Oconus overseas, outside the continental United States. You're going to have forces here in the United States. And the area of operations that these forces are going to enter into is going to be unprecedented and hard to imagine. Like our Marines and Special Forces, Army, and so on down in Kabul right now. It's unprecedented what they went into and hard to imagine. But with what I know, I'll try to walk you through portraying a picture in time of what it will be like initially for those responding forces trying to help you over in wherever you may be living. Oh, next. Next. Untold reality. FEMA and DOD are not prepared to conduct operations nor assist you in recovery operations in a complex catastrophe or too catastrophic to cataclysmic event. Simultaneous in the cities, suburbs, or on the farmlands. They have no plans or scenarios or even exercises that exist at this level. The Congress ordered FEMA to conduct a national level exercise in 2020. They didn't do it. They said they'll do it in 2021. Well, we're nearing the end of 2021, and I think they're going to waste their time by trying to attach it to the GridX exercise, which is iniquitous, I would say. I'm trying to be nice. It's good because it raises awareness, but it's been coming around for many, many years now, and I can't think of one transformer station, substation that's been hardened yet, except in China along the East Coast. They've hardened their grid to an EMP1. All military services, they're all counting upon on the electric grid the same as you are. Next, please. And here's the way, and just go over, this is my most important, this slide, the next slide.
Next.
FEMA and NORTHCOM do not have assigned forces. Each service empties up forces when called upon. They're called general purpose forces, 82nd Airborne, whatever, going to fight wildfires. And they go and they really do wonderfully. They go down to Maria, Katrina, Sandy. They help out immeasurably. But here's what's going to, because they go into that VUCA environment, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. They have no idea what the hell they're getting into because they haven't been trained for it or even told about it or psychologically and physically prepared for it. But I always like to walk through this. They're going into an area involving several, if not all FEMA regions simultaneously, all at the same time, responsible for operations in vast urban, suburban areas over multiple jurisdictions, prolonged period of time, while trying to maneuver within an intense humanitarian disaster environment. Next slide. With overwhelming needs for mass care, shelter, graves registration, sanitation, law enforcement, potable water, food, medical assistance demands, I would have run out of room for the rest. All while threatened by severe civil conflict. People will think that they're coming across with ice cream and candy and blankets and water and KFC. No, they'll be trying to survive on their own. They won't have that stuff. They may for the first week, they may have some survival, but they won't be deployed until after that. In a degraded to no situation, no GPS for your Waze or your GPS. Global positioning systems for essential position navigation and timing, which you need in the military to be able to do more finite support. Losing all air traffic. Air traffic control is going to stop after a short period of time. So any forces coming in from overseas said, better come in within about a week or two because they will go down. They won't have and what we call JRSOI, Joint Reception Station Onward Movement and Integration. That's where you position forces near an area of operations in need. We'll be able to bring in logistics and so on, and supplies and so on, like we unfortunately did in Afghanistan. With highways congested, blocked, people running out of fuel, patrolled by well-armed marauders, groups that you don't want to be around because you'll be outgunned. With limited to no self-supporting provisions for power, water, transport, you get it. Some of you are fast readers. And that's discounting the hazmat environment, which you're going to be out of luck when the SHTF, when the shit hits the fan. Next. Yeah, the fundamental, you go ahead and read this. I always said I don't like to read what's already on the slide that I lifted from somebody else. Now, if the government passed a very important piece of legislation in the National Defense Authorization Act for 2017, 2019, and 2021, which has been completely blown off by the federal agencies tasked to do very specific and time-dated deliverables. And they've gotten away with it. Department of Defense, Department of Energy, Department of Health, Human Services, I can name them that have been saboteurs in our fight to harden the grid. And it's very, very difficult to get around that. That's why we're presenting this to you now. That's why I took time over about a year to get these 95 slides together, and I actually reduced them to 95. Is trying to excite, incite, whatever you to action, not physical, of course, but words that you can to actually have the public do something, because we're neutered at the federal level. You're neutered at the state level, no matter where you are. You can ask any of your state, they're not leaders, they're representatives, they're officials. They're certainly not leaders, they're lawmakers. Ask them what they're doing to harden the grid. Ask your local fire companies, police companies, your Office of Emergency Management at the state and local area. What are you doing to protect us from an EMP? They'll think that's something in Chinese food like GMD. They won't know, and they should know, because they're all going to suffer on that. Next, please. Next.
We got a 9 minutes to the top of the hour warning.
Here, go to next. Next.
It's hung up. Oh, I see. It's different.
Next. Next. It's a pretty slide though. Here, just do a quick personal mental tabletop exercise, a TTX. You suddenly lost power. The reason doesn't matter. Take nothing for granted. Be pessimistic when you do something like this. You can do it yourself. Sit, don't close your eyes, keep them open. Just do an inventory around your home, about your community, your whatever. Overcoming the mindset that it won't happen or that outside resources will magically appear because they have before. The problem is that we have essentially exercised ourselves out of self-reliance. I've been to a lot of military exercises, TTXs and so on. Here, overseas, in combat, whatever, doesn't matter. You automate, not in combat because we take things realistically. Here, you go into even federal and state exercises, everything is hunky-dory at the end of about 4 or 5 days because all of a sudden, new transformers come in. All of a sudden, everything's repaired. Well, it's not going to be that way. And most importantly, do not assume, because you know what that means. You'll have sound communications, fuel, or people, as nearly every TTX that I have participated in does. Challenge your local officials and challenge them as much as possible. And the next slide, please. And when I forgot to mention that, you are going to fail miserably. And most of people, as you know, will die, including your family members. But that's okay. That's it. As it's only a picture in time, an exercise to lift you out of your comfy normalcy bias and to spur you into action. I can assure you that without a doubt, every town, parish, community, city, state, county, tribal area, or the entire federal government, minus some portions of the DOD, have never developed such a worst case scenario. Definitely not FEMA. Next slide. It's a torture of the worst kind when you, I won't even go into the personal aspects of it because it's, well, I went to I got time. I went to quite a conference down at Maxwell Air Force Base. And we talked to a lot of engineers, about 400 people there, all electrical engineers. And they got it. They understand this and so on. But they said, it's in the too hard column. We have this and that money. To be able to protect a good portion of the grid, I think it's only about $2 to $4 per citizen for the electric company. It's not a lot of money. That's a half a pint of good beer, which I'm having right now. No, I wish I did. But if you don't take action now, the scenarios that we've run, that you'll reach that point of desperation, and you'll read that in John Hollerman's Grid Down, Death of a Nation, which I will attach when I send the 95 slides out to you to look over and send off to your friends. Because if you don't protect yourself, the neighbors will end up coming over and asking you for food. I'm being very simplistic now. They'll ask you a couple of days, maybe the next day they'll come over and emphatically ask you. Then they'll come in and try to take it from you. And eventually some armed roaming gangs and so on, either in metropolitan Miami, over in Jersey someplace, or outside of Portlandia, or out in the rural parts of West Virginia. They'll be armed and well trained. And they will come in and they will kill you. They will kill your family, drag your wife away or your spouse away, and to please the militia. And you'll be holding your child, who will either be dying of starvation or a gut shot, trying to have the food taken away from you. And you'll say, I couldn't save you, when you can save them right now. And I mentioned that at this conference. And then I saw some serious faces, because believe me, personally, you haven't lived until you've held your child when they died in your arms. It's a torture of the worst kind. And you'll only have yourself to blame, but only for the remainder of your short life. And we can do things. Look what we did during World War II. and I think we just gave a lot of the stuff over to the Taliban. Maybe I'm a little wrong here. Look how much we've done at the beginning of the war, which we still had horses in our military, in the Army tactics, still had horses against on a modern battlefield. We learned a lot from Nazi Germany. Again, my bottom line is that from the start is to incite you to action, to have you make every effort to inform your family, your church, your civic groups, first responders, elected officials, in absolutely any form. And there's a lot of people, if you go to, there's a lot of people out there to assist you. And next. Oh, that was the list I showed. Yeah. That right. That one. That takeaways. Always think and plan worst case situation. We've got a lot of balls in the air right now. We got Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, China, North Korea, Cuba, Venezuela. We have a lot of people that want to kill us, and we've fallen now as a world leader to second place, and we've fallen because our allies don't trust us anymore, and so on. It's a very dangerous time we're in right now, and I think time is the single point of failure that will really be our most crucial Achilles heel. It's all about the power of the one, and that's you. You can do a lot as the power of one, but as John Hollerman wisely stated, hope for the best, prepare for the worst, and let God do the rest. And you can put the very last slide up if you would, Greg.
Is that it?
Keep going. It's the right one.
Is that it?
And the second last one was failure is not an option.
Oops.
But it's like Todd Beamer said, that wonderful patriotic American, let's roll.
Let's roll.
And that's it. I've got to disengage. I don't know if you can take any Q&A right now, but I made a promise. I've got to get
No, we're not live right now. I'm recording this and I'm gonna post it later.
Oh, okay. I can finish my beer then.
There you go.
I was a good Boddington, keeps me going.
All right. Well,
Greg,
Ken,
do you think this will stick to the wall?
Well, I hope so. Because you're trying to appeal to the common man here and get them interested. And I like some of the things you said, about having somebody doing that mental tabletop exercise. Think through what you're going to face yourself when the grid goes down. I power went out here a couple of days ago, and I thought, is this it? There wasn't a thunderstorm right then. Some came later. I thought, well, probably not. What's going on? You start to think about that. What's going on in the world right now? And well, how ready am I? I'm a prepper, but I still have to ask, well, really, how ready am I right now? So that's a good thing to do. And the whole appeal, what happens when it's your kid in your arms and the gangs are on top of you.
That's right.
I'm trying to get some survival tribe organizations going, Ken, but it's a lot of work. So hopefully we can find mutual assistance groups and get things set up, but it takes time to do all that, and especially when we're busy as we are. But we're working these things, Ken, and
I know.
And we just have to keep plugging one step at a time.
Yes, I know what you mean.
Sir.
Oh, thank you, Greg. Keep me posted.
We'll do, and we'll have to do this again before too long.
Okay. Bye-bye.
A lot of stuff to talk about. Take care of yourself, and I wish you the best.
You also.
Thank you. Bye.